Testing 1, 2, 3. This will be the February 19, 2014 City Council meeting.
Everybody ready? Ready? Cheryl, do it.
Yeah.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the regular council meeting, February 19th, 2014, approximately 7 p.m. Will you please join me in a moment of silence and the pledge? The pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to move on to agenda item 3, which is citizens' comments. This is for non-agenda items. The floor is open.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Marty Hines. I live at 1595 A1A, and I'm wearing my 55 Plus Club of Satellite Beach presidency this evening. This is a needs plea, even though I know it may be an agenda item, but it's a needs plea since I have another appointment. We have, as you know, multiple 60-plus folks that are in 3 modes. We have the Twitter, Facebook, and the text mode group. Then we have the email and folks' pictures and information. Then we have the last group, which is quite a few people, called our snail mailers. There's an awful lot of them still out there, and there may be a decade or so before they leave. So, yeah, even though we try, we only have about a third of our folks on the email. And what we would like to do is to make sure that there's a need out there to get information to these folks who come into our city new, or I get a call from someone's daughter or son saying, what can my parents do? I don't want them, they just lost a loved one. We need to get them active. And that we do have a very dynamic 55 Plus Club of Satellite Beach website now that we put up. We have our QR code associated with that. We have that information on our newscast that goes out there every other month and so forth. But we have so many people out there who don't know about us. We just put a trifold together we're going to put out there as well. We have so many people who need that information that used to be on the Beachcaster. And we just need you all to support the paper version of this Beachcaster to help so many of our 60-plus community that comes into this community. So we just would like your support. And I'm only here representing my board. We had a meeting today and they asked me to come up and represent us and let you know of our very important need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Further citizens' comments on non-agenda item? Thank you. Close citizens' comments. Moving on to city council comments. Who would like to start? Councilman Dean?
I have no comments, thank you.
Okay. No comment?
It's been a pretty interesting week, and my comments relate to the editorial that was placed by Councilwoman Medina in Florida Today on Thursday, February 13th, and mine 2 days later. The comment in her editorial on February 13th concerned the February 5th council meeting, quoting me, openly acknowledging that the city manager is keeping information from her. It's not true. No such words came out of my mouth that evening, and if one chooses to listen to the public YouTube video of that meeting, you will find I am correct. I have commented publicly that we must move on, as we have important things to do in our city. However, I must address a 2.5-year-old issue that was resurrected in Councilwoman Dean's post on the Florida Today website, where she rants about my numerous calls harassing a local business for supporting her during the election of 2011. So let's talk about the Sun on the Beach phone call. Attached is a copy of an official police CAD event report on the 2011 phone call. I did call. I was not an anonymous caller. I identified myself, and I spoke to the individual there who told me he was one of the owners. In the middle of my call, my AT&T service dropped, and I called right back. I explained to him that I had lived in our city since 1984. I was a frequent diner from when the original owner opened Sun on the Beach after the Virginia Fried Chicken restaurant that was there closed. I told him I had no problems with the signs that were out in front of his business. However, as a patron, I found it offensive that the ketchup bottles in the restaurant had Cheryl Demon stickers on them. He advised me that it was his restaurant and his right to do whatever he wanted to do. I told him I was fine with that, but I would probably not be back there. He asked me to come in and talk with him. I told him no, I declined. I also have attached what appears to be an official police document. Although the forms look legitimate, it is not part of the official police report because it was never acknowledged under oath and submitted to the police. The statement on this form directly contradicts the owner's comments given to the investigative officer and included in the public record CAD report. The last public record document that I am submitting clearly shows that this bogus document was selectively circulated to residents in Brevard County in an attempt to taint my reputation. I wouldn't speculate on who is behind this fabrication and who was instrumental in circulating it to the public. Since this fabrication appears to be the basis for some of Councilwoman Dean's past and present comments against me, I'm letting her know that her source is false. I did not tell the owner to take down the signs in front of his business. I did not threaten to destroy his business. And I did not call numerous times. The call was an expression of my personal opinion about campaign ads on the breakfast table. I believe my right to express my personal opinion was adequately defended by Councilwoman Dean in her comments on February 13 editorial. While she has the right to continue to misrepresent facts and recirculate the 2011 campaign propaganda, I hope presenting the facts will put an end to the half-truths. The residents of Satellite Beach deserve an apology for time wasted rehashing the past, and I deserve an apology for misrepresenting my comments. Let's move on. We have work to do. I have attached all of the public record documents to this statement, and the city clerk has a copy of it. You know, I've talked before about moving on and our city doing important things. We're trying to do the business of Satellite Beach, and we're trying to be productive in doing it. We're trying to save our city taxpayers' dollars. If you didn't see the article that was in Florida Today the other day, it's an example of what we're doing. Satellite Beach has agreed with several other municipalities to sit down with Patrick Air Force Base and look at the services that we provide to our residents and other residents in the cities around us and the residents at Patrick Air Force Base. These are things that we can probably do together and save some of our taxpayer dollars by combining services possibly. If you look at the 100 acres that's there, the mayor and the city manager have already met with General Armagno to talk about that property and the development of that property. That property has the potential to bring in additional tax dollars to our city that will lower our ad valorem taxes and millage rate probably 2 to 3 mils. These are the productive things we need to be doing. Some of you have been coming to the A1A meetings. These are things that are going on with the DOT improvements on A1A. There are things that could happen on A1A that could make the properties on A1A much more advantageous to future development, which will increase the tax base on A1A and lower the tax base for the residents in the city. We're looking at things like shared stormwater, off-site stormwater, shared parking. These are outside-the-box thinking that we're trying to move forward with. It's hard to go out and just say, we're going to lower taxes without coming up with legitimate ways to do it. We're looking at our capital improvements and our capital assets. We're talking about replacing the fire truck. We've already replaced some police cars. We replaced the playground equipment that's at Pelican Beach Park. These are the productive things that we're doing in our city. And this is what this council needs to be doing going forward, is looking at how we can save you taxpayer dollars, still provide the services that we need to provide, and keep moving in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Breimer?
All I wanted to say was I had the opportunity to attend the car show last weekend, Kerry, up there at the rec center. Very well done. That's turning out to be a real gathering point of all ages. It's despite the fact you've got cars that are 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, you see a lot of kids moving around through there too, which is really kind of nice to see. So again, I'm just glad to see that continue in those kind of events because it's kind of becoming a gathering point, which you and I have talked about before. Again, nice job to you and your team and the rec department for pulling that together, and I hope we continue to see more of those. That's all I had, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. I really don't have much other than, please keep in mind the date of March 4th for the A1A corridor presentation. We have found out that we can meet the deadline for this resurfacing year that's coming up. So this is a project, I think, that is worthwhile. We really care about public input, and that's why we've had all these meetings. John Stone has done a ton of work on this. So March 4th is the presentation on the comments that the citizens have made and things they would like to see. So please remember that date. Moving on to agenda item number 5, City Attorney's Report.
I have nothing.
Thank you.
I have a question for the attorney.
Okay.
At the last meeting, there was quite a discussion about removing me from office, and I think you were tasked to look into that, into our charter. Did you have an opportunity to do that, and what was the result?
I didn't look into it because there wasn't any motion or any indication
Okay.
that they were going to move forward with that, so I did not do anything.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, I'm going to correct the record. There was no discussion about removing her from office. The only person who mentioned removing her from office was when she wrongly accused me of trying to do that. I corrected her then and said that would be up to the voters. And while we're at it, my response to her letter will appear in Florida Today tomorrow.
Thank you. Cheryl, any other comments of the
Nope.
attorney? Thank you. Moving on to City Manager's Report. Courtney?
Thank you, Mayor. Please remember about the March 1st, 2014, 75th anniversary of Little League, International and Beachside Little League. That will be held at Indian Harbor Beach's Crispino Field. And there will be catered food, entertainment, raffles, games, and a home run derby from 11 to 2 p.m. Also, the citywide rummage sale will be on March 1st as well, and that will be also be held at the DRS Center, but also a list will be publicized for all people who are wanting to basically sell their items from their homes. I will be there if you have a baby, you should stop by my table. And I do want to remind you that you have a workshop for SNAP on the 26th, that's next week. It looks like the SNAP board is ready to certify us if we implement their recommendations. So that will be part of your agenda packet, and you will get that this week. And that basically, hopefully we'll be able to be certified by April 2nd at their next board meeting, if all goes well. The football field expansion project is expected to be starting construction in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and this project is being completed in partnership with the Seahawks Football League, whose members are working along staff and finalizing the plans and are participating in the construction cost for the project. And I think you'll see with one of your agenda items with the Little League, you'll see a constant participation from our leagues in the cost of our facilities. So they're always helping us improve our facilities, and they're great partners in that, and this is one of those examples. I did have one action item which has been withdrawn earlier today, so Councilwoman Deanan is not requesting the transcript anymore, and that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. One other thing is Saturday, the pancake breakfast.
Yes.
Just to remind everybody.
That's here at Civic Center. Yeah.
The pancake breakfast, Lions Club.
Saturday or Sunday?
I thought it was the 22nd out on the board. Saturday? Saturday.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Saturday.
It's Saturday.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to agenda number 7, recognition of Beachside Little League contribution.
Thank you. I think President Todd McLaughlin was unable to attend today. He's probably been herded by some parents at a ball field. I do apologize. But I did want to let you know just a little bit more about what Courtney alluded to, is our sport organizations were very fortunate in our town because they because we're small, because they're all engaged, they're very supportive, not just with their volunteer time, but also with their dollars. You recall in November, Satellite Beach Soccer Club donated $10,000 towards soccer field lights, a community partner for Satellite Beach. Happy to report that Beachside Little League just donated in services for scoreboards and picnic tables and other field upgrades, $11,800. Seahawks football is on the books to donate some additional funds for the expansion of their field. You must recall that we have nominal fees for use of our sport facilities for our users. We get that back in spades. We could easily charge them $2,000 to $3,000 a season for use of our fields, in addition to the $2,000 or $3,000 we already charged them, but we wouldn't get $11,000 in work. And $11,000 doesn't come by assessing additional fees to players. These are fundraisers that we have, sponsorships that they get. So it's a lot of hard work for our Little League organization to come up with $11,800 in one season for field improvements. Very, very proud of them. We're going to be doing at the Recreation Center, at the Schechter Center, a bulletin board on community partners. We're going to be putting up saving dollars, so not doing it like this expensively, but an indication of who's going to be our community partners with our organizations, and as well as some of the businesses who help us out with Little League Opening Day and football and things like that. So we need to always support our community partners. We need to support the businesses, and we're very proud and pleased to have all these organizations in town, all these moms and dads who work very, very hard on behalf of our recreation. We appreciate it. So, Little League, thank you wherever you are. Thank you very much for what we're doing tonight, is just recognizing their contributions.
And I think this would be a great thing to add to the Beachcaster, is to recognize our community partners that contribute to our facilities. I mean, to me, that's an astounding amount of money for a group of parents and an organization to provide to us. And all it does is offset our costs, you know, and so we had those projects planned. So now we can reallocate those funds to something else. And so I just think it's an outstanding thing that is honestly somewhat unique to our city as well.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank Little League. And if you've never been to opening day of Little League, you need to go. March 1st is, and I think it's, Carrie, is this number 40? Carrie has been there for 40 years of them. And amazing.
It's hard to believe because I'm only like 40.
But if you've never been, listen, it's an amazing thing to see these little kids run on the field and the event that's planned for the day. It's great. And please try to attend. Carrie, tell them thank you very much. I know they've been great partners and it works. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 8, Police Department Annual Awards. And Chief Pearson.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Commander, bring everybody here. Come on in. Come on in. We want to see you. Come on in. There's room. I know it's tough to look at, but you got to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the opportunity. I have to say, this is probably my very favorite part of this job. When I have the ability to stand up in front of people and talk about what a wonderful group of men and women that we have at the Satellite Beach Police Department, both sworn and non-sworn, I tell you, it makes me feel that I look forward to it for days. So if you'll indulge me for just a few minutes, I'd like to just talk about some wonderful folks we have and some of their accomplishments, and let you have the rest of your night. First, Aaron Jurgens. Aaron Jurgens is our Officer of the Year for 2013, and I just want to tell you just a little bit about Aaron. He was born June 19th. I don't know what I'm going to say the year because it makes me feel really old considering I started working here the year before he was born. That's kind of trouble, actually. When I read it, I started to kind of shake. That's okay. Born in Michigan, and he went to the Brevard Community College Police Academy in 2008, and in 2009, we were smart enough to hire him and bring him on board. He started, when he was going through school, he was working at Denny's as a cook. We tried to get him to show some of those skills. We haven't been able to do that yet. He's had some advanced training and some interviews and interrogations and dangerous drugs and some breath tests and advanced report writing and some other classes he's gone to that he's brought back those skills that has just not only improved us as an agency, but him as well. And he was also the 2010 Hartman Flag Award winner for removing the most drunk drivers off the road for Satellite Beach. And he, and probably the best part of this, was just recently married on January 18th to his beautiful wife, Kayla. Is in back. Hello. And it was a beautiful wedding, and she looked fantastic, and it was a great time. And it's not only just for the things I said and for the things I'm going to read here in a second, but he's one of those people that's just an all-around outstanding guy. And he doesn't complain about anything. He doesn't ask questions about things that he knows he needs to do. He knows what he's got to do, and he just does it. And he's a pleasure to be around. He gets along with everybody. And I constantly hear feedback from the community that say that they have run-ins with him. They say, he's a really solid guy. He listened to me. He was respectful. He just was what we want here in Satellite Beach. And what he does out on the street every day is he lives up to and promotes what we want to be and what we want our community to see. And he does that for us every day. And we're really proud of that. I'd just like to read this to you. It says, in recognition of your outstanding performance over the past 12 months, you ranked near the top in most measurable and productive categories: 35 physical arrests, 8 for DUI, 167 citations, 250 written warnings, and 64 reports written, in addition to conducting over 500 traffic stops for the year. You're easy to work with, you complete tasks quickly, you're willing to accept any assignment, you volunteer annually with Operation Now, which is a wonderful program, and regularly assist our K-9 officer with training. You get along well with your coworkers, the public, like I mentioned, and you are dependable, and your performance is consistent and exactly what we look for in a police officer. And congratulations for another job well done for being our Officer of the Year. That's my second favorite part. Don Trevell. Don Trevell is our Hartman Flag Award winner for 2013 for the officer that removed the most dangerous or drunk drivers off the road. Don was born in France and obtained U.S. citizenship in 1969. He went to Fort Mentor Elementary, graduated Palm Bay High, and attended the Police Academy here at Brevard Community College. He worked at Pisano's Italian Restaurant and spent almost 20 years in management at Winn-Dixie before he decided that a career change was necessary. Apparently, wanting to chase the people that are shoplifting out of the store, not being able to, he has that courage, and now he gets to be the one that responds to this. We were fortunate enough and smart enough to hire him in 2010, and he's been doing an outstanding job with us ever since. He is routinely Officer of the Quarter, and I will tell you that every quarter and every time that we have a discussion about people that are doing well and should be Officer of the Quarter or Officer of the Month or Officer of the Year, his name comes up every single time. He might not be the top one every time, but he's in the discussion every time. And when you get somebody, you hire them in 2010, and they come right out of the gate with the kind of tact, the kind of professionalism, the kind of compassion that he has, you get lucky. You just don't, people like this just don't grow on trees. And the fact that he came to us and we were smart enough to hire him is just nothing but a benefit for us and for the citizens. So thank you very much for all you do for us, sir. Before the pictures, through the plaque. In recognition and honor of Sergeant E. Hartman and Officer Phil Flack, who lost their lives in line of duty by a drunk driver in 1992, we are proud of your efforts in keeping our community safe, and we thank you for removing 14 unsafe drivers off our streets. Congratulations again.
I say it's an awesome day.
You're the mayor, you don't have to do it. Get it? Mary Johnson is our communications supervisor and our communications officer of the year. That's a difficult feat, but when you have the people that work for you make recommendations and ask that you be considered for officer of the year, that tells you something. When the folks that you're working with every day and that see you work and see what you do, that speaks volume in itself. And of course, it didn't take much coaxing for us to do that award. Mary's a longtime resident of Brevard County, born in Cape Canaveral Hospital. Not too long ago, right? Not gonna be anybody else. Mary first began emergency services for Satellite Beach in 1990, and it was by a friend who said, you really ought to give it a shot. She didn't think she'd be into that, and if I remember the story correctly, she kept saying that her friend kept telling her, you should give it a try, and she did, and realized that not only did she like it, but she was absolutely outstanding at it. And when you have someone sitting behind the phone and the microphone and the radio, and you're the police chief or a citizen, and you know that person's working, and you know that no matter what happens, it's going to be handled absolutely perfectly, it's going to be handled well with professionalism, no matter what you throw at her. I'm not sure, but I think she can juggle 15, bowling pins at the same time, because I've seen her do it with phones and radios and everything else. And we're very fortunate to have her. And unfortunately, she left for a little while and went to some other places to dispatch. And I finally was able to convince her to come back, and she came back as our dispatch supervisor, and it was, I think, one of my better moves. She has just been absolutely outstanding. She's the kind of person and folks, let me just briefly tell you, you don't have to know what dispatching is all about to understand this. She schedules 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with 5 full-time people. That's it, 5. Now, she's got a couple part-time people. She's got Sherry and Beverly that can fill in and stuff. But that's not easy to do because 3 people are working during the day. 1 person calls in sick, guess what? 1 person's got to go home, guess what? 3 o'clock in the morning, it doesn't matter. I've come in at 2, 4 in the morning or 2, 4 in the afternoon, and there she is. And she just does what she needs to do to make that place run, and it's just, I couldn't ask for anything better. So thank you very much for coming to us and doing what you do, and for being our communications officer of the year. Thank you. In recognition of your dedication and strong work ethic, especially during the last 7 months of the year, when a dispatcher was asked to help build a new RMS system, which we're going to talk about in a second, which left us with very inadequate and difficult shift coverage. You remain considerate of everyone's needs and continue to do the very best to accommodate their schedule while working some shifts yourself. In addition, you are required to attend several meetings and training sessions as part of the RMS build team. On top of all of what she was doing and running the dispatch center and doing almost every shift there, she was also part of the build team because the dispatch supervisor, we've talked about a records management system, is obviously critical. And you showed us what you're made of while being tasked with so many challenges and responsibilities, and we cannot tell you how much we appreciate it. Congratulations on your selection, 2013 Communications Officer of the Year. It's my last one, which is unfortunate because it's coming to the end of one of my favorite things to do. So, Sean? Let me tell you how this came about. As often happens, the wonderful ideas that come out of my office came from Linda. Linda and I were talking one day, and I was going on and on about how wonderful Sean was and where we would be if we didn't have him. And Linda said, well, why don't you do something about it? Why don't you recognize him? I said, I was thinking about that. I'm going to write him a nice letter and all that. She says, or, hey, we have the council meeting coming up, and we're going to be recognizing everybody else. Why don't you do it in front of everybody? And I said, that's great. Can I steal that idea? And of course, she said I could, but I wouldn't do that. But folks, I'm not even going to read the much up here other than I just want to tell you real quick about his bio because there's something in here that I think is important. Local guy, born at Holmes Regional, raised in Melbourne Beach and Indiana, graduated from Florida Institute of Technology with a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering. And he was the communications officer in Indiana since 2000, so he does both places. He's another one of those people that every time you turn the radio on, you're going to hear him. And it might not be in Satellite Beach, but it's somewhere on the radio because that's what he does, and he does it well. But above being an outstanding dispatcher who, once again, when I'm home and I know he's working, I know things are going to be handled, I sleep well. But we are going through, as I'm sure many of you know, an RMS system. We purchased a new RMS system to get us into the 21st century. And this computers in the cars is what a records management system is to be able to link up. Well, that system was being built and tailored to just us. That's why we chose this, because of this system and how outstanding it is and how tailored to us. What we didn't realize is just how difficult it was going to be and how much input we had to do to build this system. Well, as we all know, Adam Schultz is our IT guy, but he's the IT guy for the entire city. And it's difficult to grab somebody who's running the entire city, the information technology, and pin them down in one area. So we were struggling, and then we realized that, Sean knows a lot about computers. I gotta be honest with you. When I thought he knew a lot about computers, I thought, well, he sat there and played with stuff and went on the internet and did stuff that a lot of people do. I didn't realize that he knew everything about computers and all of the details and how to build them and how to, I'm not sure, but I think if you give him a big pile of electronics, he can build you one. And the long and short of it is simply this. I don't know what happened, but there was a little speck of angel dust that fell on my head when we realized that Sean has the ability to sit down and go through this build system. You could not believe how much work he's done and how much knowledge he's brought to the table. And we would get it done because that's what we do, but we would not be anywhere near where we are now. We would not be as advanced as we are, and we would not get it done as quickly and under budget, by the way, under budget. We are, without his help. I could spend hours telling you about it, but when you have a problem like this and you have somebody that works with you, that has this skill that you didn't even realize just how good it was, and can step right in with no problem, change the schedule completely from midnights to days, and completely shift his entire frame of focus and work, and started this build team. That is outstanding, and that is just a godsend. I know that sounds a little like hyperbole, but it's just not. If you saw what this man does on a regular basis, and how he has not only the computer skills, but the law enforcement background, and you can put those together, it's outstanding. It's outstanding. So I wanted to take this moment in front of everyone and your folks and your mom and dad to tell you thank you. I appreciate what you've done. I appreciate what you do, and you have helped us tremendously. And again, we're happy to have you, and we appreciate what you've done. Sean, it says in recognition of your superior knowledge and computer expertise, and for being instrumental in assisting our vendor, New World Systems, for several months while they build a brand new records management system from scratch for the South Police Department. This could not have been done as smooth as it was without your daily input and dedication to this project. You also worked shifts in the middle of all this. You worked in the communication center when needed, while trying to do all this other work. And we are very appreciative of your talents and your assistance. And again, thank you for a job very well done.
And Chief, saving the city thousands of dollars at the same time. Literally thousands of dollars.
Really, I could spend forever telling you about how wonderful it is. Folks, I know I went a little longer than I intended to. Group picture before I get in trouble with Linda. Please don't make me do that. I'm sorry I went on a little bit, but this is a great group of people and I enjoy doing it. Great picture.
That's fine. We don't want Linda mad at us, definitely.
On three. One.
Thank you, guys.
Usually they end up taking trouble.
You're like the tallest person, too.
I'm the last person they want to kill.
And everybody leaves.
Okay. I'll call you if we go to eat.
See you later.
Okay. Chief, thank you, and thank you to the people that work here in the city every single day, officers through the year, and the whole group. Thank you very, very much. I don't know. I mean, it's an exit. It doesn't matter. Okay. Before we move on to agenda item number 9, and I open up a public hearing, with no disrespect to anyone, if we'd please turn off the ringers on the cell phones. Yeah, no, that's okay. Just, buzzers on them and so forth. It'd be appreciated. Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, have the audience sit in the chairs, please.
Would you do this? I think there's plenty of seats now. If you wouldn't mind sitting, we'd appreciate it. Thank you. Moving on at this time, I'd like to open up a public hearing on item number 9, discuss take action on ordinance number 1087.
Ordinance number 1087, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, updating the 5-year schedule of capital improvements of the city's comprehensive plan as amended by Florida Statute Section 163.3177 sub 3 sub B, providing a conflicts clause and severability clause, providing an effective date. It's the second reading of ordinance number 1087.
Motion to adopt
the
ordinance number...
revised ordinance 1087 on second reading.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Gott, second by Councilman Breimer. Comments from council?
No.
Time hearing none. Open up for public comments on public hearing on agenda item number 9.
Gail Abrams, resident. Can you tell me where the septic tanks are that you're going to be removing on Shell Street? Who they belong to, and why are we paying for it? I understand there's going to be sewer lines that are going to be put in down there, but is it our responsibility to pay for an individual property owner's septic system to be removed?
Thank you. Courtney, can we get the names and...
Well, we aren't paying to remove anybody's septic tanks. We're paying to install sewer line.
That's not what it states on this spreadsheet.
It says Shell Street sewer line installment, $30,000.
Septic removal, install sewers.
Those are for city properties. Those are for restrooms at our sports facilities. We have 2 that are on septic tanks. So in that case, we would be removing those because we own them.
So that's for the ballparks?
Yes, ma'am.
Any further public comment on the public hearing on agenda item number 9, 1087? Okay.
Roger Gudis, resident of Satellite Beach. I know this is a summary spreadsheet. Septic removal, install sewer. I think it should be delineated a little further. And perhaps there's other areas here. Now that after Ms. Abrams has asked the issue, that these capital improvements are summarized here, and it is rather, that's a big issue, to break it out between areas. Septic removal, install sewer. Install sewer where? Septic tank removal. Remove where? I think it's very important. Shell Street sewer line installment is delineated. It should be brought out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Public comment still open. Hearing none, bring it back to council. Further council comments on agenda item number 9, ordinance number 1087.
I'd like to amend that motion so it just does say that it's at the R2, I guess it's the library field, and also at Hedgecock, so it is clearly delineated for us. It says, I forget what, they're not numbered, but septic removal, install sewer at library field and Hedgecock. Big deal.
So what you're wanting is where it says septic removal and install
So it's
sewer.
specifically to our city property.
I mean, we can add parentheses like city property,
Yeah,
but...
that'd be fine.
Okay, is that okay? Because honestly, when we have multiple items in one, like we have annual street resurfacing, we don't delineate every single street because that changes every day, when we decide how much money we're going to have and what we're going to do. And the same thing with like sewer line replacement. There's multiple line replacements, but we capture it in one item. It would be too long of a plan to do otherwise. So I would be glad to put septic removal / install sewer, and then we could put parentheses sewer, city property.
That's fine.
Is that okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Any further comment? Okay, hearing none. Lenore?
Wait a minute.
Okay, hold on.
We've amended the motion.
Well, have we, or is she just going to add that?
Is that
in
all you're
parentheses?
adding is under septic removal, install sewer, city properties?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll amend my motion to include that revision.
Okay, I have,
Same with the second.
okay, revise a motion by Vice Mayor Gott, a second by Councilman Breimer. Joe, that fits your, okay, thank you. Any further discussion from council? Hearing none, Lenore?
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gott?
Yes.
Mayor King?
Yes, motion carries of nothing. This time I'll close the public hearing and continue with agenda item number 10, discuss, take action on ordinance number 1088.
When I'm done reading this, I have a couple of minor changes to make, so don't make a motion as soon as I'm done reading. Ordinance number 1088, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, repealing sections 3-1, sub 6 through sub 8, Satellite Beach City Code, repealing current administrative text for section 3-3, Satellite Beach City Code, Chapter 1, Florida Building Code, adopting new administrative text for section 3-3, Satellite Beach City Code, Chapter 1, Florida Building Code, adopting a new section 3-5, Satellite Beach City Code, implementing and updating flood management regulations, adopting flood hazard maps, designating floodplain administrator, adopting procedures and criteria for development in flood hazard areas and for other purposes, providing for applicability, repealer, severability, and effective date. The first reading of ordinance number 1088.
Okay, thank you.
And
Corrections?
the changes are, and I'll tell you why in a minute, but on page 6, which is what I handed out to you, you're basically, what you're going to be doing is, number 2 is basically going to be collapsed into 1, which is what's on here on the handout. I had taken it out. They didn't like it when I did that. They told me I had to put it back, so that's what I did.
Wait, I think I might have yours.
That's
You
okay.
should,
It'll
this
just
right
say,
here.
it'll be the one that says top of page 6, which is where we are in the handout. Because if you read it, it says, in case of any repair, the market value of the building or structure shall be the market value before damage occurred and before any repairs are made, which is what 2 basically says right now. They wanted it back into sub 1 as one whole sentence. So what's happened is 1 and 2 now are together or collapsed into 1, and then 3, 4, and 5 are now 2, 3, and 4. And then on page 9, in we're done with that. The rest of them I'm just going to orally give you. The handout doesn't apply to what I'm going to give you now, because the other ones are just short additions. In 104.3 sub 6, where it says be signed by the applicant, you need to put or applicant's authorized agent.
On 6.
This one's on page,
Oh, okay.
on page 9, 104.3 sub 6. And then on page 12, 106.11, strike inspections in the title. And the title will now be Development Other Than Buildings and Structures. And then in 106.121 on the same page, where on the fourth line down, it starts facility exempt from the Florida Building Code. Put a comma after code and add or the owner's authorized agent, comma. And then on page 24, subparagraph 1, at the end of that subparagraph, it says "and final plats." Strike "and final plats." And that's it.
Move to adopt ordinance 1088 as amended on first reading.
Have a motion by Vice Mayor Gott. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Breimer. Discussion from council.
Yes, on the second page, on the agenda item, where it lists all the, the pages where you could go to look at the documents, I wasn't able to open those. Tried, so I wasn't able to actually look at the maps to determine which properties have which designations. And this is a lot of information, and we're talking about implementing something more stringent than the state model, and I would really like to see a workshop on this, because this is a lot of information to go through. So that's all I have to say.
First off, the ordinance has to be adopted by the 17th on second reading. If it doesn't, then we're suspended from the NFIP program. If there's some things that we need to tweak, then I would recommend that we do that after the ordinance is adopted. I know it's kind of backwards, but there's time restraints that are put on this that we have no control over, as well as Attorney Beadle will allude to, we've tried very hard to make changes to this flood ordinance, and they've been very resistant to making any changes, whether they're more or less restrictive, or just even for points of clarification. As far as those links, they did work for me. I can only assume that for some reason, when they got copied or they got loaded up, they didn't. The link is not active, but they certainly could have been a copy paste and then searched it that way, because they are good links. Those came directly from the Department of Emergency Management, and I've used them on several occasions.
I just had a quick. This is the state model adapted for our city and code, correct?
Yeah, in this package, there's actually two model ordinances. One is a state model ordinance that what they did is that's the Department of Emergency Management. They worked with CFR 44, that's your Code of Federal Regulations, to look at their minimum standards, as well as the 2010 Florida Building Code, which also has flood provisions in it. And what they found when they were going through these map revisions that were recently completed was that most municipalities, as well as counties, did not meet the minimum standards for those for a compliant flood ordinance. So during this process, they also set that March 17th deadline for adopting a compliant ordinance that met those minimum requirements. So the problem that we had, in addition to not really having a compliant ordinance, is Chapter 1 of the Florida Building Code. In our city code, which is in Chapter 3-3, was adopted, I think it was April 2002. The Florida Building Code first came into existence in 2001. Essentially, what our Chapter 3-3 is the very first Florida Building Code that was in existence. Needless to say that a lot has changed since then. So that's why the building officials of Florida worked directly with the Department of Emergency Management to create their own Chapter 1. So that became a model ordinance for Chapter 1 of the Florida Building Code that could be adopted locally. So what you're seeing in here is a state model ordinance from the building officials relating to Chapter 1 of the 2010 Florida Building Code. In addition, it's the state model flood ordinance, and to make sure the two of those work in concert with each other. I felt it was the best way to go about this was to just scrap our version of that Chapter 1, because it was so outdated, it just would have been very difficult to try to bring that up without fully understanding what it is they wanted us to do. So here we had a state model ordinance by the BOAF that had already went through that process. So it made more sense to just go ahead and adopt both of these model ordinances and make as few changes as possible. And even so, we'll have to take out the first reading and let DEM take another look at it, make sure that there's no issues before it comes back for second reading.
Okay.
I have an additional comment. I understand that the deadline of March 17th, but it says on page 2 that we have a need to strengthen the Florida building code. It's the first paragraph, above the minimum requirements for critical facilities in flood hazard area, and that the local need is addressed by increasing minimum standards. And when we affect people's property rights, I think we need to be very concerned about that. And if it's going to be passed as is, by increasing the minimum standards above the state model, then I'm not going to support it.
Can I comment to that? Yes. The minimum standards that are in here are, at least as far as the ordinance, I haven't looked at the building officials part of it, but that's just for the building code. But for the floodplain issues, their position is that if you don't adopt this ordinance, then you don't get to participate in the flood insurance program.
No, I understand.
But I'm just saying, they're the ones that are mandating these minimum standards in order to continue. It's this, let me tell you, this ordinance is their ordinance. I didn't realize, I was provided this ordinance to make observations and comments and try to make some revisions. And anything that they even remotely construed as an amendment to what they thought it meant was rejected. So, we're basically being told this is the ordinance that we have to adopt, and if you don't adopt it, tough. That's the attitude that they currently have.
I can also add to this, as far as what is above the minimum standards, they gave us somewhat of an a la carte on things that we could do that they approved being above the minimum. We'll call it the low-hanging fruit that I felt that would have the least impact, where they will give us some community rating system ISO credit towards lowering the overall flood insurance rates for those in special flood hazard areas. Those are typically the ones that are on the direct ocean front. So by adopting some higher standards, what essentially you're doing is lowering the rates for those that are direct ocean front. The ones that we had put into this ordinance, it was prohibition of critical care facilities in the special flood hazard area. Knowing that the special flood hazard area is east of A1A, direct ocean front, because even though you're east of A1A, you're not necessarily in a special flood hazard area. Most of that is flood zone X. But as you really get out there closer to the dune system, you start getting into those special flood hazard areas. So a critical care facility is defined as like a nursing home or a hospital, things that I just can't imagine us, first off, it's not permitted in our zoning anyway, it's an RM3 zoning. So to me, that was an easy one, and we get some points for it. We can maybe lower our credits or our grading even more so. And, as it stands right now, with some things that we've been able to do over the last couple of years, we're now generating a savings of $28,000 for the community just by adopting some other standards. So that's number one. The other one is requiring new streets to be constructed above the BFE, the base flood elevation. To me, that was a no-brainer.
Yeah, we do that anyway.
Yeah. So, again, we get some credit for that. Maybe we can help these direct oceanfront people lower their rates a little bit. I mean, I got a call yesterday from a guy who was really stressed out because he was getting his flood insurance was like $360 for a year. He dropped it because, he thought that was too much. And so then he rethought it, and then he went back in to reapply, and it was like $6,000 just because of that little teeny lapse. And that's what they call bringing it up to market rate. So if we get suspended from the program, we leave the program, those direct oceanfront people are the ones that are going to truly be affected by this because their rates will reset. So again, this was in an effort to try to take some low-hanging fruit and lower some rates for those direct oceanfront people. The last one is prohibition of new septic systems in the floodplain. To me, this is a direction we're already going anyway. So I think, we've got two of them over on Shell Street. While, we're not removing them, we are providing a sewer system, and once that sewer's in there, we are going to be putting them on notice that they will have to connect up to it and abandon that system at their cost. So those are the things that are higher standards, low-hanging fruit.
Okay, thank you. Further questions from council?
Hey, I just have a couple of things. If you look at the minutes from the Planning and Zoning Advisory Board, they're the last 2 pages in this ream of paper. Under a motion, it says, all voted yes, motion failed.
Yeah.
All voted yes, motion failed. On page 3 and 4 of the minutes of the P&Z December 16th meeting. So I think those probably need to be corrected.
Yeah, I don't think that's correct.
I'm
the motion passed.
I'm surprised they made it that far without getting picked up.
Okay, good point, thank you.
Thank you.
Unapproved minutes, right?
They're unapproved, yes.
Any further comment from council? Hearing none, I'll open up agenda item 10 to public comment.
Ron Hughes, President Satellite Beach. March 17th deadline. Meeting in December, PZAB. I'm missing something here because I would have thought that on such an important issue here, whether it be east of A1A, west of South Patrick, wherever you want to look at here, we would have had some workshops instead of canceling meetings and spending time on other issues such as emails, which I would probably be called out of order on the prior meeting. We could have had a workshop last week and brought this forward. I tried getting up the maps today, and thank God there was somebody looking out for us. I had a cancellation on a travel notice today, and I left it up to leave for a couple of days and thinking that this would not happen, and sure enough, it did happen. We are already passing an ordinance, March 17th deadline. Certainly the Comprehensive Planning Board would have been noticed, or some way, shape, or form this should have been known when we were adapting the comprehensive plan. Certainly there should have been some form waived if this was already put on the agenda for PZAB in December. This was public knowledge at that point. I do not even want to mention areas that we've delved into in this city. When this affects all property owners and the potential tax base, now we're under the gun for March 17th to make sure our national flood insurance is kept up to date. I am saddened, disappointed, and I'm withholding comments on this. This affects everyone. And I have much further to state, but I will not do it here right now.
Thank you, and I'll answer that. First off, we don't have the choice on this. If we do not adopt this ordinance, we don't have the flood insurance. We didn't do this ordinance. The state has told us this is what you will do if you are going to be part of the program. That's what we have our choice. This is not a workshop for the city council to change at all. We can't change it. The state has pretty much told us, our attorney has told us, that there's not a choice here. This is not a change issue. It's not a workshop issue. We're going to be part of it. This is what you're going to have to do. So that, I'm answering your question there.
No.
Oh.
No. I will remove myself from this meeting at this point in time.
Yes, you will. Thank you.
Gail Abrams,
resident. I live on the ocean. Mr. Stone, can you tell me honestly how I can reduce my flood insurance premium? Okay, because I don't agree with anything that you're saying as far as the oceanfront properties and their flood insurance premiums. Okay, that's number one. Number two, tried to pull up these websites today. Nothing, can't get into them, all right? Number three, I think we need a workshop for this because I want everybody in this community to be aware that you will all be affected by this flood program. Number four, does anyone know what's going on with the flood insurance program? Have you been paying attention to what's going on with the flood insurance program? There's a lot of issues going on over on the west coast of Florida because of some of this legislation that was passed. And fortunately, we had some people in the Senate that put a pause on it for 4 years because people's flood insurance was tripling, quadrupling, okay? Now, when you talk about we have to have this, are you talking about me as a property owner or the city of Satellite Beach? That's the question.
To answer that question, we as a city need to participate in the National Flood Insurance Program in order for the citizens to obtain insurance, flood insurance through the National Flood Insurance Program. If we choose to not be in the NFIP program, there is flood insurance out there through like the Lloyd's of London and some of these other ones that are extremely expensive to the point to where it's not even feasible. But they are out there. But we as a community have to participate because we're the one that do the regulations. You know, and we're going to make sure that the roads are above the base flood elevation, that when you construct a house in a special flood hazard area, that it's designed in such a way that it's going to reduce or eliminate any possible cost against that or claims against that flood insurance program, the NFIP.
So you're saying that if the city didn't participate in this program, then I would not be able to go out and purchase my own flood insurance?
Not through the National Flood Insurance Program. That's correct.
Okay, and you're saying Lloyd's of London? I mean, I'm with Nationwide.
Point of order,
Wait,
we're not
wait,
here
we're
for a
not here.
discussion.
He-
We're here for
He's
citizen
not- well,
matters.
let me tell you what I hear him saying to you. If we adopt this ordinance, then you can participate in,
I'm already participating.
if we don't, then you won't be able to participate in this particular program. It's not saying you can't go out and get flood insurance, but it can't be part of this program. That's all he's saying.
If I can interject, is there any phone number that she can call that's not city-related? Because I don't think anything
Oh,
you say
absolutely.
is
In
going to
fact,
be...
it's on our website. Yeah,
So
there's
we
a
can
local number in
provide
there.
another number for you to call, for you to get that information, because obviously you disagree with Mr. Stone, and so maybe you can double-check on
Yeah,
the next
would.
level.
Are any of you aware of what's going on with the flood insurance program? Do you know that the mapping that they have out is now being revisited because there's issues with it? Are you aware of this? Have you paid attention
We've been watching it.
to the bigger waters bill?
But we still have to, we're not dealing with that issue right now. What we're dealing with is, we have to pass this ordinance, or we can't participate in the government program.
The city cannot.
We can't. You won't be able to participate. No, you
I will
can't.
not be able to participate.
In this program, that's why we're doing it. The National Flood Insurance Program.
NFIP.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm in the NFIP.
Right, but if we don't pass this, you won't be.
Won't be able to.
But I have to. What about the people that have mortgages that have to have flood insurance?
That's why we're passing
That's why
this.
we're passing this.
But you got to realize that this could have a huge impact on people's properties.
That's why we're doing it.
We're protecting them by passing this.
Well,
You know,
we're
that's why
disagreeing,
I think
so,
we should have a workshop.
okay, thank you,
I think it's really important that people understand this.
thank you. Further public comments on this agenda item? Hearing none, bring it back to council. Further council comments?
No.
Basically, we've got to pass this ordinance if we're going to allow our citizens to participate in this program.
This ordinance has,
Well,
this
wait,
ordinance
excuse
has...
me, I'm sorry. Okay, that's okay. So this is basic what we have, is if we have two choices. If we don't pass it, then our residents cannot participate.
That's correct. We will be suspended from the National Flood Insurance Program. End of story. March 17th, that's our marching orders. If we don't adopt it, we are suspended from the program.
And again, this is the first reading also. We have another reading, but this is what's given to us by the state. In order for us to be part of this program, we have to adopt.
And we can also provide a letter and a copy of the ordinance to the property owners that are within those areas after this ordinance is passed?
Well, first of all, this ordinance affects only those in the special flood hazard area.
So those are the properties.
Those in the interior of the city is in a flood zone X, and they're not in a special flood. They're what they call a preferred risk policy. So, yeah, I mean, there's over 800 residents in the, or policies, I should say, that are in the special flood hazard area within Satellite Beach, according to Department of Emergency Management.
So we can provide that information to the property owners.
I couldn't look at the map, so can you just kind of, I mean, everybody knows the city, geographically say where those areas are? I just couldn't open them.
Yeah, and the maps are available. You're welcome to stop in and look at them. It just, unfortunately, they only gave us one, and it's, at some point, they're going to be moved from that temporary file to the mapping department where they're going to be, that's where their permanent home is. But generally speaking, things actually got better because of better mapping tools. The areas that have typically been affected are the direct ocean front, because that's where you're dealing with first off, the VE zone, because that's where you get wave velocity. And then after you kind of move more landward, after the VE, you have the AE, and that's where you have rising water. And then beyond that, it's the X zone, and that's where you're outside either the 100 or the 500-year floodplain, and those are your preferred risk. So to answer your question, you're dealing with your coastal residents primarily. I mean, with a few exceptions, there are some on the canals, but most of them on the canal, they're structured, because that's really where your rating comes in, is not the flood zones within your property, but where the structure is located. In other words, it's typical to have, especially oceanfront, to have 3 different flood zones, both the X, the AE, and the VE, all within your property. So, you got to look at it a little bit closer and say, okay, well, where is the structure located? I mean, even if there's one brick of one corner, the entire structure gets rated into that higher risk category. So, when you start looking at the canals, the structure is usually located considerably back from the special hazard area, and as you get into the canal area, then you may have some AEs over there, but again, that's not where the structure is located. So, out on Lansing Island is probably another good example. That used to almost be all within that special hazard area, the AE zone. And a couple things happen. One, again, better mapping tools, and number two is now that they're getting the majority of it built out, they have elevated those structures a minimum of 2 feet above the BFE. So they've essentially elevated themselves out of that special flood hazard area. So more of that Lansing Island got taken out of it. So now when you start looking at the special hazard area, you're looking at like Sampson Island, some of the undeveloped lots on Lansing Island, those direct ocean fronts where there are some of those structures that are clearly in those special hazard areas,
Okay,
both
and then
the VE and the AE.
Just one other question, because again, I would have loved to have just looked at the city and had a visual of what was what. I'm hearing a lot about the low-lying area in the interior of the city. Is that all X or?
It's all X.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were pretty fortunate. When you go up into the South Patrick Shores and some of those areas, it definitely starts dipping into the interior of the city, but we didn't have that within Satellite Beach.
Okay.
So if you want to open them up, I got them open because what I did is I just highlighted them, copied and pasted them, and then they opened right up.
Same thing, and it didn't work.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, any further comment from council? Hearing none? Lenore?
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. John, thank you very much for your hard work on this. Appreciate it. Moving on to agenda item number 11, discuss, take action on fire department vehicle finance and acquisition.
Andy?
Andy?
There's 2 parts to this. It's the the recommendation for the actual truck or apparatus, and then also the recommendation for the financing. So I'm going to let the staff go ahead and present that.
In your packet is a bid award from Ferrara Fire Apparatus in Louisiana. After we began looking for a fire apparatus, decided to use the Florida Sheriff's Association.
Don, talking to that microphone.
I'm sorry, we used the Florida Sheriff's Association's comprehensive bid list on vehicle acquisition. Going through that bid list, where just about every fire truck manufacturer submits various bids and specifications, and I looked at bid specification number 17 for a custom pumper, and going through that bid specification, it seemed to closely match what our needs were for Satellite Beach. There were, and the Ferrara was one of the, when they say bid, it's just the price that they submitted to the Florida Sheriff's Association. I believe that bid was listed at, and I don't have my paper in front of me, but $399,000 and some change. There were two other manufacturers that were lower than that price, and that was going to be Emergency One Apparatus, and then another one called Crimson Fire, and it was a specific name brand truck. Looking at their bid specifications, they had some items that were slightly different, and for the Ferrara, I felt to be a greater value for us. Number one was going to be the use of marine-grade aluminum in the entire framing of the truck, and the Ferrara apparatus had the thickest in marine-grade aluminum for both the cab and the substructure of the body. The other two apparatuses, they did use it, but it was at a lesser thickness, and in some areas they had steel. Reason this was important to me is that not only are we looking at the price of the apparatus, I think we got to look at the care and maintenance and feeding of it, if you will. So went back and started looking at, well, what are some of our maintenance issues that we have? Because this is going to be an apparatus that we're going to have for 20 years, and corrosion is one of those items that we've dealt with. So it looked like, and as far as I can tell, that this is the best value as far as, for the corrosion piece being on the saltwater environment. There was another piece that was to this, and was in the electrical system. There's two types of way of running your electrical components in there, your lights and other types of things, and it's called a simplex system or a multiplex system. In a multiplex system, what it is that a single wire may actually be carrying the signal to run 4 or 5 different things on the truck, and it's done basically through a router box. Over the years, that has actually been one of our gremlins that we've had to deal with, and therefore the repair of one item is just not a simple plug and play. They've got to go through and do a lot of diagnostic, and then when you're paying $100 an hour labor charge, that can actually add up. The Ferrara uses the simplex system, meaning that it is basically plug and play. I don't have any of the computer items that will, that has created some of our challenges for us. So that was the two reasons why I picked this apparatus.
Thank you. Okay. Question here. So your apparatus you picked out actually is $407,825 with the additions you need.
Yes, let's go ahead.
We're getting trade-in of 33.
Yeah,
Okay.
And let me just validate the difference here, because the bid specification, bid 17, was for a 1,500 gallon per minute pump, and we're doing 2,250 gallons per minute. That was part of it.
2250, you said?
2250,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
And also the other thing you'll see is that in the bid specification, the minimum bid award required a 1-year bumper-to-bumper policy thing. This has been extended to a 2-year bumper-to-bumper, all things included. And then we add in with our maintenance of 5 years on the engine, transmission, and things like that. I believe that we're going to be able to control our vehicle maintenance costs.
Thank you.
Andy, can you go through the financing?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. The city staff, the finance department put out a request for a proposal for possible financing options on the amount of $375,000 for a new fire engine. We received 2 bids, one from Leasing 2, believe they're out of Tampa, and Community Leasing Partners. Those are the 2 bids we received. The low bid for the proposed financing of the truck was Leasing 2 at an interest rate of 2.89% interest. It is for a 10-year. The city finance department would propose for a 10-year lease option purchase on the truck. The payments would be $43,000 per year. The city budgeted, I believe, $50,000 in the capital improvements program beginning next year. The way the lease works is the first payment would not be due until October 1st of 2014, so that would put us in the next fiscal year. So that is basically how we, not only did we sort of competitively bid the fire truck, but we've also done the same for the financing. And I think you see a pretty good, decent savings between the two interest rates. And an interest rate of 2.86 right now is very, I think, very good for a city compared to 5 or 6 years ago. And then as well, sort of lost my train of thought here, but basically that would be our recommendation, is to finance it for a 10-year period, and it would be less than what we've got budgeted in our capital improvements program.
Okay, great. Questions?
Was that 2.76 is the rate, not 2.86, right?
2.89.
I copied both. The original bid, which we did in December, was 2.76. I've gotten that revised by the company, being that would be offered for the next 30 days, so allows it. So they did have to go up by a tenth of a percentage point,
all right.
but it's still lower than the second lowest bid.
And we're still $7,000 a year less than what we had originally budgeted for.
Yes, and yes.
Okay.
Questions from council?
I'll move that we accept the purchase proposal from Ferrara Fire Apparatus and the financing proposal from Lansing 2 in Tampa.
I have a motion by,
I'll second it to include it being leasing to, not Lansing. Leasing to,
Oh, leasing 2.
yes.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Gott, second by Councilman Montanaro. Any further comment from council? At this time, open up for public comment on this agenda item. Hearing no comment, bring it back to council. Any further, council?
Just one thing.
Yeah, I just would ask the chief if he's sure he wants to go with a bumper-to-bummer warranty.
I saw that.
Chief, Vice Mayor Gott had a good time with your report.
Just the only comment I have, guys, is I see you really did your homework on this. This is really well put together, so thank you for bringing it forward like you have.
Thank you.
When this passes, when the truck is 6 months, 3 months timeframe till we
Like 9
receive it?
months.
If we are able to get our order finalized by the end of the month, there is already a chassis in the production line. We may be able to grab one of those 5 chassis that are left, and if that's the case, we're probably 120 days.
Oh.
Maybe a little bit more.
Nice.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions from council?
Let me just add one more comment,
Please.
because this is a very small percentage, but these were just proposals from the finance company. We will get the same rates, but we just have to go through the credit approval process, so there is that maybe 1% chance it does not get approved, but I very seriously doubt that. But just so you know that we've still got to go through the financing and then the purchase. But this will allow us to execute that agreement for this interest rate.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Further comments? Hearing none, Lenore?
Yes.
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 Yes, motion carries. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Moving on to agenda item number 12, discuss take action on the beach caster recommendation for FY 13-14 and the budget amendment. Courtney.
Thank you, Mayor. In your goals for 13-14, you have discussed reinitiating the Beachcaster in the paper version in addition to the electronic version. So we did put out some quote requests to kind of get a determination of whether we could afford that or not. What we did was we were interested in not just the printing and mailing, but also the formatting. As you recall, in the previous years, the staff did that. It was very time-consuming, and we don't have that staff anymore. So what we would like to do is have the company, we would like to send the articles and the content to the company, have them put it in the Beachcaster format, print it, and then mail it. So the quotes that you see are for the printing and mailing, and then we received quotes from Indian River Press that it would cost around $260 per publication to format it. So we came up with the roundabout estimate for a budget amendment. If you decide to go through with this $7,200 budget amendment that would allow for a bi-monthly print publication of the Beachcaster for the remainder of this fiscal year, we would bid that out tomorrow. We would start that bidding process tomorrow. and get that low bid decided on by next week, and then begin the publication. So we have not bidded this out. These quotes are purely for figuring out what the budget's going to be. We still would have to put a competitive bid out, which would include advertising, so the cost may go down a little bit, but I don't think so. I think it's probably going to be what we were quoted on. And we would recommend, we did this quote for an 8-page Beachcaster, which is smaller than our last Beachcaster. I think we did before, it was 16 pages. I think it was actually twice the size. So we felt that it was better for us to kind of take that down to a smaller size and more affordable. It would go out to 5,500 residents. And as we move on, I had a good, I think it was Ms. Robichek actually, had an idea to put in a survey of people who like to get the Beachcaster, so we can, get some good data on who's opening it and who's reading it. And then also include their option to put their email address, send in their email address and get the electronic version. So we would be sending out both the paper and the electronic with the intent over the years, over the year, however long it takes, to move from the paper to the electronic, if that ever happens. Okay? So that would be our recommendation. We were basically asking you to approve a budget amendment of $7,200. We're taking that from legal services. We're tracking that line item, and we're just not spending the amount that's in that line item. So we're recommending to take it from there. And then we're recommending to move that to communications, and that would allow for a bi-monthly production of the Beachcaster in the paper version for the remainder of the year. And we would ask that you provide direction to staff to send out a formal bid for the format, printing, and mailing of the Beachcaster, and authorize us to go forward with the lowest bidder. And then we would ask that for your direction to reinitiate the Beachcaster for March-April publication in both the paper and electronic format.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Gott, second by Councilman Breimer. Discussion from council.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I have a question. Would we be keeping the masthead that we...
Yep, we literally submitted the exact Beachcaster, and that's what we'll do with the bid, is, what will it cost to do this?
Okay.
That was a great idea that Carol had on the
That's it.
emails. Can we also include in that, if we're going to have this on the city's website, we also may want to include something else if we're going to be looking at a survey, because there are probably people that will just want to read it on the website and don't need their email address sent in, and maybe that can be part of the survey, so we can reduce our costs that way. We don't have to mess around with people's emails, and if they're going to read it on the website, let's put that one out there also.
Okay.
Thank you. Mark?
Courtney, so basically the same design, in other words, you're going to have the same font size, it's going to be easily as readable as it was before?
Yep, exact same, just a reduced number of pages. And honestly, the last, I think it was 3 pages of the former Beachcasters that I looked at were largely Scotty Culp's pages.
Yeah.
So, we're not going to have that again. So, I felt that was a reasonable way to reduce the size.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further comment from council? Hearing none, open agenda item number 12 for citizens' comments.
Steve Osborne, residents. I just wanted to tag on what Dominic said. Is it going to be available on the website? And as you see a lot of websites where you can download the PDF format, so I could print it at home if I want to print it, as opposed to I have to read everything on the website. I want to make sure that was, because I think in the long run, if someone can just go ahead and download it themselves and print it themselves, which I could do and take it with me to read at a later time, as opposed to I have to keep it open on the website all the time.
Yeah.
If that's included, I think that would be a great way.
That's a great way to do it, is to PDF it, because that's the easiest way for people to,
Thank you, Steve. Further comment? Steve?
Steve Headley, resident. Just out of curiosity, and I do this to try and protect some people. The bids here, at least one of the bids, mentions camera-ready artwork. we may want to specify and know what camera ready means. Camera ready to a printer does not mean, for instance, a JPEG off of a camera phone. Camera ready to a printer means something totally different, and in a lot of cases means vector format graphic. And if we're providing that, that's great, but we should know that. Otherwise, converting that can sometimes be a very, very time-consuming and costly endeavor. I did a conversion for one of the organizations in the city, and it literally took me 12 hours. 12 hours at $15 is big bucks. So in the specifications, I would ask that, or recommend that we get a specification of what
that means. Okay.
To that particular printer.
But you could do the conversions for us then, though. That's what you just said, right?
I actually did some beach transfers.
Okay.
And one of the problems I had was people sending me stuff that I could not edit.
Okay.
And could not type.
That's a good comment.
I have no problem doing what you're saying. Okay? If you've got stuff that you want converted, if you give me the time and I will give you a deadline, when I can turn around, I have no problems helping you or the city in that regard.
That's really nice of you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm just saying that if you're going to make the specification camera ready, it's good to know what that means.
What that means? Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you
very much, Steve. Good.
Okay, Clyde Peterson, not a Peterson, I'm a beach captain. I just want to let you know that a lot of my neighbors would like to have the beach captain. Don't think there's anything so pathetic as an ignorant citizen that do not know how to vote or vote the wrong way because they are not informed. The beach captain should be utilized to let our citizens know what's going on in the city, what you're accomplishing, why you're doing certain things. So when it comes time to vote, they will know who is looking out for them and who is just basically disagreeing with everything we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comment on agenda item number 12?
Dale Abrams, is there any way that we can, I know at one point we talked about doing things locally, and I guess the definition of locally would be within Brevard County. I know sometimes it's not easy to do that when we're looking at certain things like engineering and things of that nature, but it would be great if we could do it locally to support some of our local businesses. And then, how many times is this coming out this year?
Bi-monthly?
Bi-monthly?
Bi-monthly, yeah.
Okay. I know I was outside trying to calm down a little bit, get over the flood insurance issue. Is this the total cost for the rest of the year, for the bi-monthly?
Yes.
Yes, that's what we figured out.
All right.
Thank you. Further public comment? Hearing none. Close public comment on agenda item 12. Bring it back to council. Any further council comments? Hearing none. Lenore?
Councilman Medina?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Ross?
Yes.
13.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Courtney, thank you on this.
Nice job, Gordon.
Moving on to agenda item 13, City Council agenda for March 5th. Any other items that anybody would like to see on here, please go with Courtney for this agenda.
We do have enough applicants for the Audit Selection Committee. I'm happy to say thank you to our applicants. And I also, just to give you a preview of the Capital Assets Fund ordinance we're proposing is we're moving into a direction of wanting to replace some of our capital needs with the service. And although we think our current ordinance is broad enough for that, our interpretation of that ordinance has not been that broad, so we want to clarify what the ordinance means, so we'll propose that to you at your next meeting. And you'll see a request, basically a recommendation for your new or continuing city engineer. Depends on the outcome of that recommendation. And then also the results of the request for proposal for our email exchange server. We are also going to be proposing or basically proposing for discussion the possibility of moving from a code board to a special magistrate. And that would basically, since we haven't had a code board hearing in 2 years, I think, would allow some of those board members to serve in a different capacity. So we're going to present that item to you as an idea and a concept, and if you're happy with that, then we'll move forward with the specifics on implementation. And then also the Auditor Selection Committee, you'll have those applications to appoint that.
Okay. Thank you very much. And again, any further items that council would like to have on the agenda, please see Courtney on that. Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 14, City Council minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the city council regular meeting minutes from January 15th.
As submitted.
As submitted.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Vice Mayor Gott. Is there any discussion from council?
Some jazz in the park?
Hearing none. Lenore?
Yes.
You need any baby stuff, you can continue.
Yes.
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 Yes, the motion carries. At this time, I just want to make sure everybody mark our calendars. February 26th.
Yes.
SNAP meeting here, 7 o'clock.
That's correct.
Okay. Any further business before council?
I have a question.
I'll
Are
answer.
you going to do the SNAP meeting on YouTube?
I believe we record all of our meetings here. Yes, ma'am?
I know you do council.
Yeah, we will.
I don't know if the board meetings or not, but are you going to be doing the SNAP meeting on YouTube?
Yes, we can, yes. Okay. Thank you.
What time is that? 6
7?
o'clock?
That's 7.
7? Okay. Any further business before council? Hearing none, meeting's adjourned. Thank you. No, that's okay, buddy. No, I just...